A couple examples we spoke to the state legislature about recently were North Washington Street, South Washington Street, and Port Street. We want to do major updates to those three. North Washington Street and South Washington Street, they don't have sidewalk. We want to add sidewalk to those areas. But when we do that, we might not have enough right of way to do that. And so, is there opportunity to potentially make the roads more narrow and then not push into people's front yards with sidewalk, because some people don't want people that close to their front of their house. Port Street is a completely different scenario where you have sidewalk along most of it, but there's utility poles in the middle of the sidewalk. Yeah. So they're not accessible for people in wheelchairs. The Port Street is narrow, and there's parking on both sides of the street, and so you have to wait to navigate through there. It's the emergency route to the hospital. The ambulances use that route. They'll come down the Parkway, they'll turn at that traffic light, and they'll come up Port Street. The hospital will be moving. Obviously, they're building the new hospital, so that'll move. So then we talk about, well, if the hospital is moving, and that won't be an emergency route anymore, and we want to improve the sidewalks, how do we do that? Are we going to push the sidewalks into these front yards more? Yeah. Do we ask for additional right-of-way width, or perhaps we maybe even move the street in more narrow and move the sidewalks inside the utility poles? Maybe we take the utility poles and put them underground. That's extremely expensive. All of these are options. None of these are clearly the way to move forward. And so we want to continue to have conversations with the community. What does the community think we should do?
When I started the SPY, there was a lot of discussion about roundabouts. I don't know how much those conversations have progressed, but counterintuitively, roundabouts seem to be working out really well for communities that have different needs.
That's something that we're looking at as well. So intersections is one of the pieces of the Complete Streets Manual, and roundabouts is something that we've talked about a lot. The challenge that we have is that they take up a big footprint, and so it's hard because you need to acquire property from properties on the four corners of an intersection. Nice. So some places that have been considered are North Washington Street and Aurora Street, near Wrightson Avenue, near the 7-Eleven. And the problem there is that the properties on the four corners don't have property to give, and so it would be very challenging to to acquire property to get the roundabout to fit there.
Yeah.
Another place where it's possible is at what we call Five Corners. So where Peach Blossom and Idlewild, Washington and Harrison all come together by Idlewild Park. Could be a little easier in that you could push it more into the park, but it's still challenging to get all 5 legs of that intersection to come into a roundabout there. And then another option is at the other end of Idlewild Park. There's the triangle at the other end where Washington and Dutchman's are. There's been some talk about possibly putting a roundabout in that area.
Is there a fundraising opportunity with the state on intersections like Port Street and the bypass? I mean, could there be a subterranean pedestrian solution, for example?
But we've talked about it. We've talked about a tunnel. Essentially, they have one near Salisbury University. There's one. There's a tunnel pedestrian tunnel to get under. We've talked about that. We've looked at bridges. They take up a lot of space, and that they need to be accessible for wheelchairs, and they need to meet ADA specifications. So they're expensive. But we're also we're working with State Highway. They're going to be doing a median project that's going to start in 2026. That's a median project on Route 50 from Dutchman's Lane at the south end up to Lomax on the north end. Roughly from the Royal Farms at the south end to roughly the Royal Farms at the north end. That's a coincidence, but those are kind of benchmarks. Those are benchmarks for where their work's going to be. And one of the things that they're going to do in that, they're going to upgrade the median, but they're also going to improve the crosswalks at Dover and Goldsboro.
Yeah.
to help with pedestrian crossings of Route 50.
Yeah.
So our rail trail is going to go through Moton Park to Glenwood Avenue.
Okay.
And when the state does this traffic signal, they're going to have a pedestrian crosswalk there at Glenwood in the Parkway.
That's
And then the town and our public works department is going to build the trail. They're going to connect from Port Street through the park
yeah.
over to the intersection by the elementary school. Yeah.
And
And
so
then it'll go across, and we'll continue that trail. It'll be an asphalt trail that'll go down to the park, and it'll connect into the bridge that goes into Easton Village.
and when would that take place in your?
It looks like it's going to be the end of 2026, and then that would get us pedestrian bicycle crossing at a traffic signal across, and then it would be picking up. You'd have the park, Moton Park. You'd have Easton Elementary School.
Yeah.
You have the ARC property.
Yeah.
The Port Street corridor would all have a safe crossing there. The current traffic signal at Port Street and the Parkway does not have a pedestrian crossing. There's not a crosswalk or pedestrian crossing. The
Right.
Glenwood crossing will.
Let's finish up talking about downtown because, of course, we're very lucky in Easton is walkability. What's on the list?
We're currently working to finish up our traffic signals. We have 14 traffic signals in the town of Easton that are maintained by the town of Easton. So this does not include anything on Route 50 or the Parkway that the state maintains. And we are finishing up a project that's going to connect all of those traffic signals so that we can bring them up. They're going to be they're going to have cameras and they're going to have cameras associated with them that will be able to sense when cars approach and turn the signals more quickly. There'll be a smarter solution. When we do that, we're also going to add pedestrian signals to every traffic signal. So they'll have crosswalks, pedestrian push buttons. As we do that, we're going to make sure that each of those traffic signalized intersections are ADA compliant. We're going to improve the ramps. That's going to take us to the end of 2026. So we're at the beginning of 2026. We're going to finish our traffic signals for vehicles. By the end of 2026, we will finish our pedestrian push buttons that will help with the pedestrian and the walkability, the accessibility. But those pedestrian push buttons will allow safer pedestrian crossings at those intersections. But it also, the new traffic signal work we're doing will help time that better, because that's a problem. A lot of people will experience delays at those intersections. Those cameras will tell us that the cars have cleared the intersection and we can move on to the next leg of the intersection. The current system that we're finalizing now, it will be able to sense when vehicles are waiting for the traffic signal, and it will be able to turn the signals quicker to make traffic flow.